We woke up to news in the course of the week that that soldiers who are going to Somalia to fight and who are aboard some choppers owned by the government had lost their lives, or there'd been a clash of sorts. The details are still very sketchy. We've just confirmed today that there's actually 7 who lost their lives, and it's really sad. And our condolences go out to the families of those soldiers who lost their lives. But let's now try to understand this. How is it possible, Chris, depending on the information that you have, what, in your opinion, happened? How did we have 3 helicopters?
There's every reason to believe it was weather conditions. But then, the question that need to be answered, how did these helicopters end up flying in an area with such weather conditions, and has been known before? Because I'm meant to know they were flying at a distance of 5 kilometers from each other. That was the formation they were using. And I have been saying there was a disagreement, even on the routes.
By who? Between who?
Within the Air Force people. The pilots and the Russian experts had talked of leaving Soroti, go to Lodwar, just outside the Mount Kenya there. From Lodwar, fly to Wajir, and straight to Baidoa. But they chose, that distance 1,205 kilometers by air. But they finally chose to use the Soroti to Lodwar, then you come to Nanyuki to Wajir, then Wajir to Garissa to Baidoa. A distance of 1,380 kilometers. So there was a difference of 180 kilometers by distance alone. So the reason is why choose
Nothing
a long
wrong
route.
with that. I don't see any problem with that.
First of all, we should be asking questions now. That is the probe committee. Why choose a longer route when there was a shorter route? 2, if it was weather conditions, the army is telling us that, you know, the Kenyan cleared the airspace for the helicopters. And the Kenyan authorities must be aware that flying on top of Mount Kenya is dangerous for such helicopters. Why was it cleared for them to use that route? So some of us cannot rule out that I don't think we are necessarily good neighbors to each other, or we are honest to each other.
So you don't think that...
And I think the probe team should answer the questions, because everyone is saying, Mukola, I heard Mukola and Babu talking, that flying around that area, there are strong winds. It was not known today when the choppers were using that place. Was there a warning to the Ugandan Air Force that this route is likely to have these problems? If not, what was the reason of letting our choppers use that route? So we cannot... Saleh's committee should come up with those questions with the answers. And we're all aware that the UPDF, this one I've been speaking boldly, has done a very tremendous job in Somalia when everybody else was staying back.
Kenya was struggling in Kismayo.
Including us. We're saying, why send our soldiers to Somalia? But the parliament later on realized that this was a stronger Pan-African decision. And we supported that going there. So the issue of UPDF being in Somalia doesn't arise now. The issue is we have lost choppers, we have lost human life.
No, go do it the other way. We've lost human life, we've lost choppers.
Exactly. We have lost human life, 7 of our trained people, and then equipment, military equipment. We need to be told who took the decision to change the routes. 2, why were we cleared to use Mount Kenya when knowing that there's a history of plane accident around that place?
Do you read mischief into this, Angelo?
I do read it myself.
Okay, fair enough. Clearly. What about you?
Well, like Chris says, the plausible explanation here appears to be that weather conditions that are unpredictable around that area caused the choppers to crash. But that's the bare minimum. It doesn't explain many other questions, and you can add other theories. But the context of this tragedy, and my condolences particularly to the young people of West Nile, as one of the leaders of the squadrons is from there. The context of this is that for weeks now, or months, since the Kenyans joined the operations of AMISOM, there have been disagreements open, I think. Some of it reported in the media between the senior people from the Ugandan side and the Kenyan side. 600 Ugandan soldiers, I think, were sent packing because, you know, AMISOM was
was inflated.
Yeah, was inflated. Though I think they need more soldiers. But also, you know, the Ugandans flagged off publicly an air support contingent. Even if I think the Kenyan Air Force is a pride of the army, and they led their operations in Somalia with the Air Force. I find, because since 2008, when I initially got interested in particularly politics of Uganda's neighbors that have a coast, this is before the post-election violence, actually 2007, around there, that you can't totally, like Chris says, rule out, friction that arises from being interested in different things. The Kenyan establishment has at every turn, in my view, stepped in the way of Ugandan programs. The Lamu project, $22 billion was placed in as a sweetener before even Kenya had oil. Uganda had oil. East African Oil Council had said, let's build a refinery on this side, and we were negotiating with the Chinese at the time. The Kenyans proposed it. Now there's a pipeline project to supply Dar es Salaam in exchange for Dar es Salaam's gas. Dar es Salaam has a cost. You have to remember that our politics, and what's why Somalia is important, is that we are landlocked. And Somalia is a key part of Uganda's openness to the rest of the world, because the deployment there is in satisfaction of our alliance largely with Washington. So these are important considerations, and I am of the feeling that just at a strategic level, it's important to ask just how much support. Let me just make a final. Let me make a final point. That we shouldn't allow our weaknesses, to be exploited. Uganda could have relied a lot more on its own facilities. We don't have a national radar here. It's the procurement was stuck in Parliament. I don't think that we have invested as much intelligence as the Kenyans have invested here. So I see this in many ways as an intelligence failure. There's a need to reassess.
What's your assessment of what these gentlemen are saying?
2 points. First of all, I think, Alan, we send out our heartfelt condolences personally to the people who lost to those very, very professional pilots and from across the country, really. And I think...
And one of them was a student of yours?
Yes, for sure. When I was at university, I would do part-time teaching. One of them, Lieutenant Nahamia, a son of a commercial farmer in Kiruhura, a retired church leader. So it's really painful, not only to the UPD, but to Ugandans.
Yeah, true.
And I think when these tragedies happen, one thing the Western world defeats us on is solidarity. Before we even engage into what happened, who should be blamed, what theories conspiracy theories can we either rule out or confirm, I think such tragedies should bring us together as Ugandans. And I think this is the spirit and unity I've always seen the UPDF push out there. Though sometimes I get offended those who bring in partisan issues in the UPDF. And I'm happy Bore recognizes the mighty work of the UPDF. The thing we should learn from here, what perhaps the SARE committee should help us, as we professionalize our army, not in terms of more numbers, but in terms of more IT capacity, technological infrastructure. I think the army should pay attention to the associated dangers, associated risks. You get it? Because we are upgrading the technological capacity of the institution from being, infantry will remain, Air Force is being more developed. So what are the other associated challenges, especially as we now live in a global world highly threatened by terrorism, porosity of borders, as Angelo normally talks about them. You have Al-Shabaab in the region. So I think the army should pay more attention. In addition to paying attention to the threat we have from the ADF in Congo, I think they should pay attention to IT-generated threats. So what are these IT-generated threats? Such accidents.
Okay, but let me now ask you, I have an issue, because I think the spirit of East Africanism still exists, Chris. And I have an issue with you suggesting that the Kenyan government could have actually made a concerted effort, or the military leadership in Kenya could have made, because it would have required a lot of...
That is not a suggestion here. We're saying that there could have been rogue elements, first of all, but also it could not be, you can even rule it out eventually. It could just be whether but it does raise.
It could be an accident sometimes.
It does raise these uncomfortable issues. For me, as an East African integrationist, like we say, having these countries work together as a bloc is certainly important. It may not happen with this generation of politicians, but the next generation certainly must invest in a united East Africa with a perhaps including Sudan and integrating Somalia. I don't think that you build confidence, you know, out of events like we have seen here, where there are rivalries that are short-term between militaries.
Do you see the same challenges that we had in the 1970s, Chris, with the East African integration?
Exactly.
Do you see Kenya
So
being the source of those problems again?
What I'm saying here is Ugandans should realize, first of all, should know who their friend is. I am not against the East African community or federation, but you must understand whom you are federating with. And I have an issue. Angela has even given you more facts. I know for a fact how the Lamu project was hijacked from Uganda. After Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, using our sons and daughters, helped Southern Sudan become a nation. And we go to Southern Sudan today, you find KCB. You find
because
everything.
Ugandans are slow to
yes, I'm
move it.
telling you. Now, the same UPDF goes sacrifices in Somalia, and the relationship between our troops and the Kenyan troops in Somalia is not the best. The Kenyan troops want to command. It's like Uganda is playing second fiddle. How can a person who entered that territory first play second fiddle to you? Big brother mentality coming into this community. That must be put on the table and discussed. Unless we come to debate on equal footing, we will not be able to have a community where somebody feels they are more important than the other simply because Uganda is landlocked.
Okay.
And this I'm telling you, let me conclude this point.
Yeah.
So when we ask about, talk about the weather, I am not discounting the issue of the weather, bring our choppers down. But I'm asking, Alan, if you're a good marine person, do you direct a boat to use a route infested with crocodiles?
I think
Do
the
you?
theory,
You really have 10
the
seconds
theory of
literally.
Bore is trying to advance. Is really not the best. I saw the Kenya Wildlife Authority really carry out frantic efforts in recovering the people they recovered, and we must really give them.
I agree.
That's
applaud them for it.
Sure. Accidents can be accidents. Even the KLM we fly, even the famous Sky Team. You've seen planes really...
Mr. Minister, you know that's a crocodile on Dane. Do you send a boat there?
Okay, guys, we've got to end this here. I'm going to say thank you very much to our
Do you
panelists.
send a boat with a crocodile Dane?
But do you want to tell me, over Mount Kenya, that turbulence has not been detected? Planes fly over it.
Okay, fine.
Which planes? What kind of planes fly over there?
Let's continue this over coffee, okay?
What kind of planes fly there?
I'm going to say thank you very much.
We should be given an explanation,
One
Mr.
of
Minister.
the planes landed. I agree.
Mr. Minister,
Don't for sure.
away things.
The explanation
Guys,
should come.
let's
But
end
again,
this-
don't
let's end this
develop
conversation here.
suspicious
Yeah,
theory.
okay, fair enough.
No, I'm supposed to suspicious of you. Like I'm supposed to be being in the cabinet now.
Angelo, thank you. Angelo is over there. Chris Obore, the
But Frank,
indefatigable
what will you steal? There's nothing. They have stolen everything. So why are you
of
getting
course.
cabinet when is it right?
Frank, who we are now calling
So
Mr.
now-
The land has
Minister.
been taken.
The fact that they know I don't steal.
We're going to say thank
That's why I'm
you.
joining
And
cabinet.
again, our condolences do go out to the families
sure,
of those soldiers who've lost their lives. And hopefully we shall get the answers to these questions that continue to linger. My name is Alan Kasuja, and until next Sunday, thank you very much.